Today I'm joined by Asif Hussain and Zee Bhimji, who are the co-founders of ShowingHero. Thanks for joining today.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, so
Scott, thank
let
you
me
for having
first
us.
ask you, what was your inspiration for launching ShowingHero?
Yeah, so ShowingHero, the inspiration actually came around a few years ago. Zee and I were chatting about how we were managing our own properties. Zee manages about 1,500 doors, and I was managing a few different doors, and for my friends and family. And I was asking Zee for help on, what are some tips and things I could do. And while we were sharing some ideas, we were also sharing the difficulties that we were having when it came to the phone calls and the nonstop emails that we were getting. And while this was like always a good problem to have because we had so many people that were interested in our properties, it became really cumbersome for us to be able to respond to them and have to coordinate showings. And so based on that, Zee and I kind of figured out what are the best solutions and best practices in the industry at that time, and what are the needs of the property managers. And from there, we were able to kind of use that as a trampoline to kind of create ShowingHero for what it is today.
So what we do is actually we have the ability to integrate with any of our partners, which means any kinds of showing. So we have some customers who are even in the commercial space. But in order to be able to make this, to be able to explain this in the simplest way possible, what ShowingHero does is it helps with the coordination of showings. Okay, so we process showings, we process people who are interested in homes. So on average, we get around 30, 40 leads for each property. And very many times, a property manager has on average 15, 18 properties at any point in time. We have some clients with around 130, 140 listings at any given time. That is a lot of leads that are coming in. We're taking in every single one of these leads and we're encouraging them to see the place. And we're able to schedule the showing via self-showings, so on and so forth. There's several ways of us doing this, but it's like a CRM that actually gets us to the showing. And that's the biggest benefit that we're providing in terms of getting a showing scheduled. So it can be for residential, it can be for condos, and so on and so forth, to answer your question.
So the current offline practices, I suppose, is how do realtors and property managers currently handle all these leads and schedules? Is it pretty much handled on an ad hoc basis? And because there are competing platforms that are out there in this space as well, right?
Absolutely. No, I think you're right. I think that there are competing platforms. Traditionally, most people will have someone who's managing this full time. So you would have an administrator that you're paying a salary to be able to just handle phone calls and coordinate showings. You have a lot of back and forth. And so one of the major things is you might be able to say, hey, I have a HR person or my agents are handling these showings themselves because that's their portfolio, but people don't realize the lost time. And so we've noticed that majority of people are scheduling showings on the weeknights and weekends. And your agent might not be working 8 o'clock on a Friday night, but you have a prospect that's interested in a property at that moment. How do you respond to them? And you really can't if you have a live person doing that. And you have to wait till Monday morning when you see hundreds of emails in going back and responding to them. And that manual process is kind of like a Band-Aid approach at the moment. So what happens with ShowingHero or other competing platforms is when you automate that, you're able to respond to the prospect at the moment that they're interested in and then provide them the next steps to be able to schedule a showing rather than the traditional method of going back, giving them a call, responding back to an email, or even sending mass text messages.
So there are, niche AIs like X.AI and others that are allowing for scheduling to handle fairly seamlessly. Are you guys using bot chats, or is it just the fact that it's somewhat self-service or self-directed allows for people that are interested to be able to actually find a way to quickly put themselves on a calendar for showing?
Yeah, there's several ways of doing things. We do have some artificial intelligence. We do have some bots. There's basically what's happening is that we're creating somewhat a virtual assistant for the for the property agents who want to schedule showings, and then it's self-serve for the prospects themselves. So a prospect gets an instant gratification where they come in, they are interested in 123 Main Street, and all they do is they send an email, call in, send a text, whatever the case is, and instantly they have the ability to schedule a showing, and they can schedule a showing for an hour from now if it's self showings, or schedule a showing based upon what the availability is of that agent. And then the system is smart enough to be able to say that if an agent is obviously at 123 Main Street, they're not going to be at a different property at the exact same time. So it's smart. It kind of takes all that for you. It's like having multiple assistants. And as Asif was alluding to, this is what we were doing manually 5 years ago. Right? Yeah. Basically, the biggest issue we were facing is that we had 3 call center staff full time. Obviously, they were not available after 5:30 p.m., but they were there full time, and we were still having this challenge. So this is where the need comes in and really takes care of us.
Okay, so really the value proposition for the property managers is that you're allowing for automation to handle some of the labor force aspect and the inflexibility issue that currently exists. And then for the potential prospects that are interested in some of these showings, it's allowing for instant gratification and response that perhaps maybe was delayed or the handoff was a little bit cumbersome. So in that process, you mentioned kind of a dual flow where it's a live agent that can do physical showing, but also online virtual. That's, I would imagine, some sort of a 360 view. So talk about the kind of instant viewing process.
Yeah. So just to kind of add on to what you said in terms of value proposition, it's not only the showing itself, it's all the repetitive tasks, right? So a lot of times prospects won't show up to a property even though they've scheduled it 2 days in advance. So we send out the reminder notifications, we'll push out applications, we'll get feedback on the property, we'll send out scheduling notifications to the occupants, to the agents, and to all party stakeholders. So what it does, it makes sure that everyone who's involved with that showing gets notified on a timely basis. And so it not only expands your brand, gets feedback, pushes out your application on a consistent basis, but it also does the core competency of scheduling the showing itself. But in terms of what you just mentioned, ShowingHero also allows for self-showing and virtual showings. And so what we're actually doing is we've noticed, based on the current epidemic, is a lot of prospects are now scheduling showings by themselves. We've already seen about, Zee might have a better stat, about 45%, I would almost say it's 50%, Zee, that we're doing self-showings and agent showings. People are more happier to be able to pop into a house without waiting for an agent, get a secure, safe way to get into the house. We pre-screen them prior, and then they'll do their showing, and then they'll follow up with the agent when they want to go ahead and apply. But what we've also started to look at is virtual showings, right? And thinking about how can we connect the prospect while they're sitting on their laptop at home or in the office and give them a live tour, not necessarily a pre-recorded tour, which we also do, where you can kind of push out a video that's a 3D video that kind of takes them through the house. But how can the agent have 8 or 9 prospects that are sitting all over the US and take them through a live video tour?
Yeah, that's a kind of interesting hybrid model. So if I'm understanding correctly, is the agent at that point in that one-to-many interaction physically present in that actual unit, or they're actually simply providing the narration of the tour?
So we have multiple options. So we have the regular agent showing where the prospect and agent are both at the property. We have the self-showing where the prospect has gained secure access to the property and the agent's not there. We have it where the virtual showing, where the agent's at the property and the prospect is not there, but the prospect's having a live conversation with them. And then the fourth option is where we have a video tour, which we can push out to the prospects so they can kind of watch a pre-recorded video of the property and the showing itself.
Now, one of the challenges of this kind of use case that you guys are tackling is that you have essentially agents with finite set of time, right? So you have a influx of leads, and they tend to kind of overlap in terms of the evenings and the weekends, and you only have a handful of agents that can cover it all. So the fact that you can actually supply or avail not only the self-service, but the ability for that agent to handle multiple viewings at the same time, that has tremendous efficiency. And then, of course, because it's still live dialogue, they can actually provide a way to have Q&A as well.
I'm going to have Z answer that. He manages thousands of properties and he has the exact problem.
So Scott, I think you really got it. I think that's the biggest thing where what we saw was we need to bring a little more efficiency, and we cannot just keep hiring, or like we say in the business world, we can't pay for our problems by simply hiring more employees, right? You're just throwing money at the problem. What we needed to do was be able to ensure that we can show these properties, provide even a better service, because many times what was happening is that even though people want to see the place, we're having to schedule it 10 days out. The prospect wants to see it now. They want to be able to make a decision based upon other properties that they've seen. And what we have noticed is that with self-showings in many cities that our clients are using ShowingHero, they're able to get tenants to be able to apply much faster. The properties are their days on market for the properties has been slashed by over 75% many times. And yes, the prospect sees the place, and many times what we've noticed now is that those prospects, even if they don't want a particular property that they've seen, they want to continue working with that property manager so that they can see other properties that property manager has specifically, as opposed to other ones where they have to go and wait for an agent to meet them. So this is kind of becoming now a double benefit, which is coming to our clients directly.
Yeah, so just to kind of recap for the listeners and audiences, that really what ShowingHero is doing is, on the property manager side, it's a way for them to lower their cost structure, which is one of the key selling points. And at the same time, you're actually increasing or enhancing the customer journey experience, because there's a high touch point, not just in terms of scheduling, but the post follow-up activities, which, by the way, if it was up to a human assistant, there could be some things that they drop the ball, but because it's an automated workflow, you're going to make sure there's right touch points, right follow-ups, and rescheduling it, and so forth, and then pushing that process towards that application, which is the ultimate conversion goal. And then for the users or the consumer side, it's a way for them to get that instant service need met rather than having to wait or schedule out 10 days. So it sounds very promising. So tell us about how much progress you guys have had. What's the kind of footprint and market share that you're starting to acquire?
So the way we're working is we launched basically in 2018. And we have started getting clients in the US and Canada. Actually, what we're trying to do right now is get more clients, even with this new virtual option. We've had, I would say, Asif, would you be able to say how many prospects, how many showings we've been able to schedule? We've had, I believe, over 500,000 prospects go through our system.
Last year, yep.
And it is something that many of, I've been in the property management space for over 10 years now, and it is something that a lot of people are very interested in, especially when it comes to things whereby, like, you have your self showings and just the automation that comes in.
Now, one question, and then I'm going to wrap it up here, is that I know companies like Salesforce.com and others have really acquired specific niche AI tool sets to add to their CRM, specifically around prospecting. So if they look at the data set, the system can start to look for pattern recognitions around the kinds of customers that's most likely to convert in such and such period, or high probability conversion. So in that sense, how do you foresee your product roadmap changing or developing in terms of kind of the attributes or kind of the set of behavioral data that can give some indications around, out of 100 leads, these specific candidates or prospects are most likely to convert, and these are the ones we really want to focus on?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Zee and I talk about this weekly, right? One of the other things that ShowingHero can do with automation is we have a lot of data, right? So when you're scheduling hundreds of thousands of showings, you're able to kind of see patterns at a larger scale. And so, can we be able to predict what kind of rental patterns would a prospect go through year on, year after? Can we be able to market certain properties to them where they're based, or what their life cycle will look like in a few years from now? What does rental pricing have an impact? Does weather have an impact? One of the things that we also provide to our clients are owner reports, alert settings, and detailed report by prospective property that really allows them to make better business decisions. I think what you've asked is something that we're all dealing with, not only in the property management and the real estate industry, but the industry at large, is that are dealing with high level of data and saying, how do we able to see this data to be able to say and figure out what the next behavioral pattern is? There's a couple of things that we are working on internally. I'm not sure if Zee's going to share some of those, but it is something that we are very cognizant about and very much proactive and excited about being able to then share this with our clients and other partners.
All right. So how can people learn about ShowingHero?
So best ways is they can reach out to us, go to our website, ShowingHero.com. And we want to specifically say that during this time, especially in the pandemic we are right now, self-showings is what is growing the fastest. We do have our self-showing options available, and those are most recommended by the CDC and even the National Association of Realtors. So this is the best way to be able to move forward.
All right, so today I've been joined by Asif Hussain and Zee Bhimji, who are the co-founders of ShowingHero. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.